What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection ahead of Game Week 4. So we're going to go through how I did in Game Week 3, take a look at that quickly, then go through general thoughts, transfer plans and captaincy for Game Week 4 and possibly beyond as well. So if you enjoy this type of video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. And let's jump into it. With Game Week 3, that wasn't great. 44 points. I think in the end, Salah kind of saved it. It was almost perfect as a Man United fan. Of course, it would have been nice to get the clean sheet, but to get that win was massive for Ten Hag and Man United in general. And then for FPL, Salah chipped in with a goal at the end, got the 8 points, and he was my highest scorer this week. So I did captain the right player. The fact that he outscored Haaland and Jesus was great for me. So it was a red arrow. I think I was around 138k in Game Week 2. Now I'm down to 455k. Again, just to reiterate, which I'm going to do every week for like the first 10 game weeks, overall rank doesn't make a huge amount of difference. The points are so close together. I could have another okay week and maybe even get a green arrow. It's just that kind of start to the season that always happens. Big at the back did not go well. Gabriel obviously chipped in with 7 points, but Ederson, James, Trent, Cancelo and Cucurella, between them got 3 points from 5 players, which just isn't ideal at all. I don't think it's worth panicking. I'll talk about the defence in general when we come on to Game Week 4, but it wasn't good. And I bought in Ederson for Sanchez. If you remember, I did Neto to Reed. That was to free up 1 million and to use one of my 2 free transfers. And obviously Neto didn't do anything again, so that wasn't too bad. And then it was whether or not I kept that free transfer and the 1 million in the bank, or whether I just spent it on Ederson and I took Sanchez out, who got an 8-pointer, and put Ederson in with 1 point. The only thing for me is, I think I probably would have played Ward. That's what I was talking about on the final thoughts video, just because of the fixture. Ultimately, Leicester defence just does not look good, which we kind of already knew. I just wasn't expecting Sanchez to also get a clean sheet against West Ham. So Brighton have started the season really well, but that transfer didn't do me any good. Man City conceded 3 goals against Newcastle, which I don't think is going to happen that often, but for it to happen the week that I bring Ederson in, not great at all. Elsewhere, look, all 3 of the Arsenal boys chipped in with points. Not mega scores by any means, but an assist for Martinelli and Jesus. And obviously, Gabriel got the clean sheet. Haaland got a goal as well. He could have had another one. There was almost a similar situation to the previous game with Foden just not passing the ball. And I do think it was a more difficult pass, but a player of Foden's quality could easily have made that. So it's the second game in a row where Haaland could have had another goal. He is going to be due a big score sooner rather than later. I just don't see how that can't happen in that Man City team. And he's done okay so far. He hasn't blanked in 3 game weeks, but it could have been more. We always want more as FPL managers, and it could have been more. Obviously, Andreas on the bench is what it is. So overall, 44 points. It wasn't awful in the end, but it wasn't great either. Red arrow. Let's see how Game Week 4 is looking. So for Game Week 4, I'm still on big at the back. I've got my 5 defenders locked in alongside Ederson. Obviously, Andreas Pereira is a really nice first bench option. If someone misses out, I don't mind if he has to come into the team, but he hasn't got such a good fixture this week that I'm going to play him ahead of any of my first 11. And look, I've seen some of the comments, some of the hindsight merchants out in force this week. You know, big at the back is dead. Big at the back was never sustainable. It's never going to be good long term. Why are you relying on defenders instead of attackers? But nobody was saying this just 1 game week ago when all those defenders had done well. And if you look through the list of the ones that I have, and I haven't played all of these every single week, but Reece James, 1 clean sheet, 1 attack and return in the first 3 game weeks. Okay, Trent hasn't done well at all, but ain't nobody selling in before Bournemouth at home. Cancelo's actually had 3 returns. He's had 2 clean sheets and 1 attack and return already this season. Ederson, obviously 2 clean sheets. Gabriel, clean sheet game week 1, blank game week 2, back to a clean sheet in game week 3. And Cucurella, I've only played once and obviously didn't do great against Leeds, but did pick up some nice positions. So overall, this idea that big at the back is now dead is absolutely crazy. We cannot say that after 1 game week where they all happened to kind of blank apart from Gabriel, when after 2 game weeks it was looking great and people were looking to move from 4-4-2 to 5-3-2 instead. And you shouldn't make such big overreactions based on 1 game week. And it's fair to say that players like Rodrigo for Leeds, players like Ivan Toney at Brentford, they're doing really well, and I would love to have them in my team. But realistically, when you compare them to like Reece James, Trent and Cancelo, I think it's pretty difficult to warrant using transfers to switch them around. So yeah, would I rather have Toney or Rodrigo in my team than Cucurella? Possibly right now, but they're a lot more money, right? And it's not a direct replacement. Cucurella is only 5.1 million. I have worked out that if I do Ederson to Sanchez, Cucurella to a £4 million defender, either Nico Williams at 4.1, maybe Emerson at West Ham now as well, and then bench that player most weeks, I can afford to do Reed to Rodrigo. That's a -8 this week. I ain't going to do that. Maybe I'll do it next week for a -4. But right now, there is just no need to panic. We weren't panicking after game week 2. Why are we suddenly panicking after one more game week where they all happen to have blanked? And look, you can say that Chelsea, for example, poor against Leeds, no Kovacic, no Kante, maybe that'll be an issue going forward. And I agree. But if you look at Leicester, they are always a team that I would expect to score, but their first 3 game weeks so far, 0.6 non-penalty expected goals against Brentford, 0.6 against Arsenal, 0.3 against Southampton. Southampton are a defence that I would target, and Leicester have only put up 0.3 non-penalty XG. That ain't great. So far they've had 1.5 and they've scored 5 goals. Now, unless there's an improvement in the attack, those goals will start to dry up. And yes, Chelsea defence didn't look great against Leeds, but I think it looked really good against Spurs, despite conceding 2 goals, and pretty good against Everton as well. So again, it's not really a need to panic. And Cucurella did pick up some nice positions against Leeds, and it looks like he'll probably play left centre-back against Leicester, because obviously Koulibaly is out suspended, and Chilwell might come in as the left wing-back. But even then, that was part of the appeal for going for him, that you would get a £5 million Chelsea defender, that if he wasn't playing left wing-back, you'd hope he would still be in there for the clean sheets. So I think anyone that's got the Chelsea double-up, fair enough if you're worried about it, but I don't think after one game of having it, for a lot of people, obviously if you have Mendy instead and Reece James, then maybe it's a bit different because you've had the double up for a little bit longer. But for those of us that only jumped on it this week, there's just no need to panic after one game week. So I'm actually okay with it. You look at all those fixtures, they're all at home. No one would sit here and massively argue that that Chelsea, Arsenal, and Man City and Liverpool can all get clean sheets this week. I'm sure they won't all do that, but we're talking about what's likely to happen rather than what could happen. And I think Man City are always likely to get a clean sheet. The Liverpool one looks almost nailed on against Bournemouth, given what they're doing in attack right now. I know Liverpool got their problems, but no one's going to back against a clean sheet against Bournemouth. And then Leicester, okay, that might be the most difficult one, but given how they've attacked so far, there could be something in it for Chelsea. So no need to panic. Would I rather have Ivan Toney than Cucurella? Yes. If anyone's got $2 million to spare, I'll take it. But right now, I think things are looking pretty good. The only 2 possible transfers I've looked at, really, are to get Perisic in. But this week, it would be for a hit. And I do think he was slightly limping from the videos that I saw after the game. Whether or not that was just cramp or something, I don't know. I'm not trying to scaremonger people or anything like that. But I don't think it's a move I can make for a hit. So he's probably someone to get in down the line. One of the ways to do that is Ederson to Sanchez. So reverse that move and get the money back. Look, that might have been a mistake to do that. Hopefully Ederson gets me a clean sheet this week and I stop worrying about it. But that's one way to do it. It could be for Gabriel instead of Cucurella, but right now that's probably what I would do. Or the other move is to basically do Gabriel to Dunk, which I discussed in the transfer tips video, to free up that money, and then do Cucurella to Perisic. Now I'd rather do Gabriel to Saliba and keep the Arsenal defender, but he's gone up to 4.6 and Perisic has gone back to 5.5, so I can't afford that. So this is how I'd have to do it, but I just don't think it's worth doing for a hit. I know I'm going to miss out on some Perisic hauls. I just have to hope that he gets rotated with Sessegnon. Ultimately, I think that defence looks really good this week. I'll reassess next week. If they all blank again, maybe I'll start to offload. So adding in the midfield, the 3 we've got are Diaz, Martinelli and Salah. And if you want an idea about how often people overreact based on one game week or one match or one lot of performance data, etc., look at Diaz. And I'm not saying everyone did this, but after game week 1, he blanked. We started seeing the narrative start. Maybe Nunez was going to affect his returns and stuff like that. I actually think he played pretty well in game week 1. Hit the woodwork. Probably could have come away with a return on another day. But some of the comments started, Nunez is going to affect his output. Should we sell him ahead of Crystal Palace? Now, I did very briefly think about switching him to Foden, but that was just a fixtures play because he had Bournemouth at home. I didn't think that Diaz was necessarily a really bad player or anything like that, but some people wanted to switch. Then against Crystal Palace, a lot of comments started after about 40-50 minutes. Diaz has been quiet, he hasn't been great. Then he scores that worldie of a goal. Suddenly everyone's talking about bringing him in, selling Robertson. And I know there was other reasons why people were doing that, but suddenly he's in. Now he's blanked against Man United. People are worried about the attack for Liverpool, the defence, because they're running out of midfielders and stuff like this. And yet they've had most of those midfielders for most of the game so far. I know Thiago went and got injured, of course, but you see how quickly opinions change on one player. Like, Diaz is still perfectly fine. As you can imagine, for how I play FPL, there's no way I'm selling any Liverpool players before Bournemouth at home. I'm not even like considering it. There's nothing that's crossed my mind that I need to sell Diaz to Kulusevski or to Foden or whoever it might be, because he's just such a good option this week. And then after that, if I just quickly check the fixtures to remind myself, it's Newcastle at home, Everton away, and Wolves at home. The next 4 fixtures are really good. And I'm not saying there's no conversation whatsoever to be had about moving Diaz on to someone else if you think there's more points up for grabs and stuff like that. But I don't know at the £8 million mark whether there is an out-and-out better option. After game week 1, everybody talking about how Kulusevski is the best £8 million midfielder, but he's blanked twice since. And these things can happen, right? Maybe he's a bit unlucky, etc. He's got a good fixture this week. I'm sure he'll do well. But I'm just trying to point out how quickly things change and how much people overreact. So as you can imagine, Diaz is staying, Salah's also staying. I think in FPL we have so many decisions to make over a season. Do we make this transfer or not? Who do we captain? When do we target different fixtures? When do we wildcard, free hit, triple captain, all this stuff? We don't need to create extra decisions for ourselves. And when Salah plays Bournemouth at home, I don't even need to think about any other captaincy option. Maybe if you had Kane or Son against Nottingham Forest, there's a slight decision to make there, but ultimately I think him versus Haaland or him versus Jesus, it has to be Salah this week against Bournemouth. I'm not even giving that a second thought. There's no need to use brain power on that, so he'll be my captain. And Martinelli continues to start, continues to get attack and returns, is getting good minutes as well. I think in the past, like, we've seen him kind of get brought off around the 60th, 70th minute, and I think, yeah, he got brought off in the 74th minute against Bournemouth. Obviously the game was won. First 2 fixtures he was on for 90, so his minutes look decent. I don't see him not starting anytime soon. He's just too good value. So the midfield looking solid this week. Bournemouth and Fulham, like a lot of the fixtures this week, are just good for my team. Very happy with it. Diaz going nowhere. And I know a lot of people are not going to sell Diaz or even really discuss it. But again, just wanted to point out just how quickly people overreact about players. So adding in the forwards, Haaland and Jesus, we'll come on to them in just a second. There's one thing I wanted to briefly mention about Liverpool again, because although I'm saying, look, they're great players, they've got great fixtures, there's no need to get rid of them, I do appreciate that some people have some genuine concerns about that midfield right now. We don't want to see Henderson, Milner and Harvey Elliott line up again, because it just doesn't give as much protection to the back four, and it probably doesn't help them as much going forward as well. There's a really good video on Tifo IRL from JJ talking about what happened in that Man United game. So Man United did, of course, play well, but Liverpool were weakened a little bit. And one of the issues they had was no Fabinho. So because of that, Jordan Henderson played central and Harvey Elliott played on the right. And what usually happens is Jordan Henderson plays on the right of the midfield 3 and he offers cover to Trent Alexander-Arnold. So that makes them not only better defensively, but it allows Trent to go forward a bit more as well. So that's not ideal. And if we see that lining up going forward, it might not be great for our Liverpool players. But the thing is, Fabinho did come on in that match, so you would hope now moving forward, if they can keep him fit, that will help from both a defensive and an attacking point of view. So I just wanted to mention that for anyone that's worried about their midfield, I get it. It does look weak without Thiago, without Fabinho, and Thiago is obviously still out, but Fabinho coming back will definitely help Liverpool. And the fixtures are obviously so good that we just have to keep them. I don't think anyone's seriously considering getting rid of them before Bournemouth, but I just wanted to reiterate that point. With Haaland and Jesus again, Jesus just stays forever maybe because he's so cheap. Who knows? Fulham at home, another good fixture. I guess people are going to think about captaincy. Could have possibly had more returns against Bournemouth, and if he'd outscored Salah, I'm sure people would be looking at putting the armband on him again. But I just look at it and think I've not seen enough from Liverpool and Arsenal to suggest that Jesus is now a better captain than Salah with equal fixtures. And we always go back to that same point. Salah's definitely got penalties, gets the extra point for the goal, extra point for the clean sheet. Everything just points towards him too. So I think Jesus is a great option this week. And looking at the even looking at the fixtures, I don't know if he'll even be my second highest scorer. Haaland's got a decent enough fixture. Diaz and Martinelli could come in with the points. Any of the defenders could do well too. So Jesus is a nice captain option, but there's no way I can go against Salah when he's got a newly promoted side. And I know it's boring to hear. People want excitement and stuff like that, but sometimes you've got to go for the obvious choice in FPL. And for me, it will be Salah. So very happy with Jesus. He's playing extremely well. Arsenal obviously top of the league, 3 wins, producing a lot of quality chances. They're going to score plenty of goals over the next few weeks, but I think so could Arsenal, so could Liverpool. So Salah's got to be the captain. With Haaland, the only real discussion point for me is do we make this transfer? Do we do Haaland to Kane? Now, I discussed it last week. It's kind of come back into my mind now because there's the quotes from Pep that when the 3 games happen within a week, so like within 7 to 8 days, they're going to play like 3 games. Haaland's not going to play and he'll play Alvarez instead. That does worry me a bit. The problem is you can't exactly predict when that rotation will happen. And because in game week 5, Haaland plays Nottingham Forest at home, you don't want to risk missing out on that. The only thing in the back of my mind is, will I even be happy to captain him? Or am I just going to captain Salah against Newcastle at home instead? In which case, if I'm going to make this transfer either way, maybe I do it this week, where Haaland plays Crystal Palace at home, which I don't think is a bad fixture. I think he can definitely get something. We've seen over the last couple, but he is able to get in behind even when teams play deep. It's just that Foden hasn't quite found that pass yet. But obviously, Kane has Nottingham Forest away, which is as good, if anything, if not better, given the way Nottingham Forest have defended so far. They have conceded the most expected goals already this season. And I think, Kane and Son should do really well there. So I am considering making this move. I think for my team, because I've only got the 1 free transfer, I'm a little bit less likely to do it because I'm pretty sure that Haaland will start this week. But I think having to make that transfer in game week 5 gets even harder, because then Haaland has the better fixture and Kane has the more difficult one of West Ham away. So it might be that I actually don't make that move at all and I just ride it out and hope that he starts against Nottingham Forest, but still captain Salah anyway and just don't go for Kane. I think it will be in the back of my mind right up until the deadline on Saturday, but I don't think I'll do it this week. I think instead I will value having 2 free transfers for a midweek game where we could see some rotation. There might be injuries that get picked up in game week 4, and even if they're slight ones or minor injuries, those players then might not play in game week 5 because it's so close together that it's just so few days to recover. So that's all in the back of my mind, which is probably why I like the idea of having 2 free transfers next week. If I hadn't gone for Ederson in game week 3 and I had 2 free transfers this week, I might have looked at Haaland to Kane, then rolled the other one into next week. But as it stands, I'm probably just going to hold. I do think there is a chance Kane outscores him though. Obviously, people are talking about Richarlison maybe coming in for Kane, but I just don't see it. I think Kane will play all the Premier League games, even if he is also playing in the Champions League. Like, just because there's midweek games, managers aren't going to rotate the whole side, and I think Kane will just keep playing. With Haaland, I just don't... Like, Pep has literally said that's not going to happen. It's just a case of whether you're willing to gamble on which game he will miss out. So it's a possible transfer for me this week. I haven't completely written it off, but right now I don't think I'm going to go for it. This is going to be my team. I'm going to stay loyal to 5 at the back. Salah will be my captain. And look, with the fixtures, I've got to get some decent points this week and hopefully a green arrow. There you go. That is my team for game week 4. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you think I'm making a mistake sticking to 5 at the back? Are you doing Haaland to Kane? Is it a risk with Nottingham Forest at home for Man City in game week 5? Obviously, if you make the move this week, you still get a game against Nottingham Forest, albeit away. You just got to hope that Kane outscores Haaland over the next few, and hopefully with more minutes he will. I just don't know if I'm willing to make the transfer. It's one of those ones I'm going to deliberate on all week up until Saturday. But let me know down in the comments below what you think. If you enjoyed that video, give it a like, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you tomorrow for the game week preview.